All right, lots of people were expecting Marvel to drop a trailer last week, just not the one we got.
Which one were they expecting?
They were expecting Thor: Love and Thunder. That was heavily rumored.
Yeah, that's not what we got.
No, it wasn't. I was surprised by Ms. Marvel for a lot of reasons. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I like the powers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it definitely looks very different than anything we've gotten in the MCU before, so it's going to be a fresh take.
Absolutely. Maybe the surprise for me, at least, was more about having little to no knowledge about the character or the story, so Sam is going to help give us all the info we need, plus we'll talk a little bit about Kenobi and some Batman. This is Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the Porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that Porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody was lit.
Savannah did not even realize midnight was happening, that it was a thing at all. Like, she had no clue about it whatsoever.
This actually hurts my soul. Because if your girlfriend loved you,
she would listen to
our podcast. And I say that knowing the fact that my own wife doesn't listen to this podcast. So welcome to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast, the only fan podcast to name a canon Star Wars creature and to be endorsed by Ryan Johnson. We believe that pop culture is the mythology of our generation, that there is a story, it is written on our souls, that these myths speak to that story, and that is why we are talking about the first trailer for Ms. Marvel, the official plot summary for Obi Wan Kenobi. Is it Obi-Wan or Obi-Wan?
Wan.
It is, okay. And some irresponsible speculation about the sequel to the Batman. I am David. I am the dad.
Hi, Dad.
Hi, Dad.
Hello, gentlemen. I'm honored to be joined every week by my two amazing sons, BB Nate.
Yes.
If we're talking Batman, I'm going to probably expect that's you.
Yes, well, we are still waiting for a sequel announcement for the Batman 2. But in the meantime, let's speculate about what we are hoping to see in it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What about you, Samuel the Hutt?
Well, if you're anything like us, you probably know next to nothing about Ms. Marvel. But that's why we're going to talk about her in light of the recent trailer.
Absolutely.
Dad, what about you?
Yeah, it's only 2 sentences long, but that isn't going to stop us from spending 15 minutes talking about what we learned about the Obi Wan Kenobi story.
True Star Wars fans do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening to the show. If this is the first time that you're listening to the show, welcome to Tatooine Sons. We are thrilled to have you here. We hope that you enjoy your listening experience. If you're a returning listener, thank you so much for coming back. And we want to know what's wrong with you because you're back. No, thank you so much for being a part of this. If you haven't subscribed to the show or following the show on your podcast app, please do that so that you get updated every single time a podcast episode drops. This Friday, we've been talking a lot about the Hero's Journal the last few weeks. We're going to continue to talk a little bit about that on this show, but I wanted to have the creators of the Hero's Journal come on and really give us the story behind it and walk through why they did what they did with it. And so Nick and Kyle from the Hero's Journal are coming on the show. It was a really fascinating conversation when I recorded it earlier this afternoon and edited, and it's already in the can, but it doesn't come out till Friday. So,
because that's how it works.
That's the way that this works. But enough talking about what we're going to talk about. Let's talk about what we're talking about. Samuel the Hutt.
Yeah. Well, Marvel, much to the surprise of many fans, recently dropped the trailer for the upcoming series Ms. Marvel. So we'll be taking a look at the character of Ms. Marvel for anyone unfamiliar, ourselves included, as well as a little bit of a reaction to the trailer itself.
Be on your guard. There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world.
All right, then, keep your secrets.
Your coming to us is as the footsteps of doom.
many magic rings in this world, Bilbo Baggins, and none of them should be used lightly.
Mephisto in the trailer, right?
I don't think we saw this, but there was
No, we
there was.
totally-
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, there was a devil
It was
ears.
the girl with the devil horns. It's obviously Mephisto. I don't know what else it could be. I mean, I think it's
Did you watch the new Rockstars video?
No.
No, because Eric Voss has been the one that's been behind the Mephisto thing the whole time. He's like, he literally was like, it's like they're trolling me now.
Right.
Is what they
Yeah,
said.
that's what it feels like at this point. But before we can go any further, I want to get y'all's one-word reaction to the Ms. Marvel trailer. Nate, you're up first.
I'm not sure if I can give one word, but two probably.
Okay.
Cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
That's
I think
fair.
that's fair.
That's fair.
Hyphenate.
Hyphen. I'm intrigued, but worried.
Okay.
So we'll see how it goes.
We'll talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Dad,
Is it my
what
turn?
about
I haven't thought about it. One word to describe. This is going to come across wrong, so I'm going to go ahead and explain after I say it. Okay. I'm going to use the word lackluster. And the reason I'm using that word is not because I don't think that if you're a Miss Marvel fan, I guess that this trailer was probably phenomenal.
Yeah.
I don't know anything. I didn't know anything about this character. I don't know anything about the story. It's not a new character. I mean, not an old character at all.
Well, I talk about that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so the reality is I didn't know enough about it to care about it. So for me, it felt lackluster. I watched it and I kind of was like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, it was a Marvel trailer, but there was no connection to the story. So that was hard for me.
That's a good
I'm
point.
hoping that it changes as we watch and the character, you know, we develop a relationship with the character. So
Yeah. Yeah. I guess my word would be, I guess it's kind of two words, but my word would be different, but it like feels different than anything we've gotten in the MCU. It definitely feels geared towards a younger audience, which is not a bad thing by any means.
No, not at all.
So I think that's cool. But before we go any further, let's give a little like Ms. Marvel snapshot as to what her character is, just like a little synopsis from the comics. She is a Pakistani American growing up in Jersey City. Kamala Khan, because they like did the name in the trailer and they like mispronounced it or whatever, so I have to make sure I get it right. Kamala Khan idolized superheroes like Captain Marvel, never dreaming she'd have the opportunity to join her role models in safeguarding society from the forces of evil. With an inhuman ability to alter shape and size, the newest Ms. Marvel employs an idealistic attitude as much as any power to make the world a better place. Now, just based off of that description of her character, what are your thoughts on this so far? Dad, for you first, because you have a little more exposure, Nate.
Yeah, for me, the first thing I think of with Inhumans is I think about the Inhuman series that fell apart, and I think about the moments where they were introducing Inhumans in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and like the Cocoon moment and all of that. So all of that moment is what I feel like they bring in here. Different character. I mean, she's, you know, being a Pakistani American, that's going to be an interesting storyline with it. So, but I'm so far removed. This is kind of where I was feeling watching it. Okay. When I hear that description, I'm so far removed from that type of character. And that doesn't mean that I don't think that this character is important or that lots of people are going to love this character, but I'm not
hard for you to relate.
A teenage Pakistani girl living in New Jersey.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't have any common ground to connect with.
That's a good point.
When I watch things like Captain America, when I watch things like Iron Man, when I watch things, you know, any of those things, I'm like, there's at least an adult and there's storylines that I can connect with it. I don't have those storylines with this. So all of that makes it feel like, okay, I just have to kind of watch and see what happens with it. So.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's the problem with going with teenagers, because teenagers can relate more to adults because they've gone through more stuff. But teenagers, when stories tell, you know, have stories about teenagers, it's hard to relate to the adult side of it as well. So yeah. It's difficult.
But I mean, you
it's
got things like Peter Parker, and that seems to resonate with almost everyone in some way, to an extent. But Nate, what are your thoughts?
But yeah, but that even with that, let me stop there though, because Peter Parker's a character I know.
That's a good point.
Spider-Man's a character I know, right? I have a relationship with him. I grew up with Spider-Man. I grew up with Peter Parker, so I can connect with that. I'm not saying this is bad. I know there's people that are going to be listening to this that are acting like, you know, I'm acting like some, you know, middle-aged white guy that's like wanting it to all cater to me. I'm not asking anybody to cater this show to me. I'm just explaining why I don't feel a connection to this show. Does that make sense?
I absolutely feel the same way. It definitely feels like it's geared towards a certain audience, which is, again, not a bad thing. That's what media is for. It's for audiences. And we're just not really that target audience. We'll watch it. We'll probably think it's fun because it's Marvel, but it is definitely harder to relate to this character. Nate, you've had a little bit more exposure to Ms. Marvel.
A little bit.
Because you've played the Marvel's Avengers game and she's the main character in that. But, what are your thoughts on the character overall, just based on your experience?
It's really interesting to see this character, and I'm excited to see how she plays into the MCU, being such a new character in the comics. I'm really excited to see how they go with that. I think that it'll be overall a really well done character for the MCU. I feel like it's going to fit the vibe of the MCU very well, especially with her backstory and her powers and everything and how she acts. She's kind of like the female version of Peter Parker. I'm getting that vibe. The idolizing the superheroes and all that stuff. I get that vibe from her. So I'm excited to see how it's going to play into the MCU.
Yeah, very cool. Now, in the comics, how she got her powers was, like you kind of talked about this a little bit, Dad. She was exposed to a Terrigen mist released by Black Bolt of the Inhumans.
Okay.
And then she discovered her new powers and decided to take on the persona of her favorite superhero and role model, Carol Danvers, to protect Jersey City. Now, I don't think that they're going to go that route in this series, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about the trailer itself. But based on that, do you think that there's any chance they try and redeem the whole Inhumans storyline, or do you think they go a different route?
I think that they're going to have to do something different with Inhumans, because that show was just ripped, and to the point where it's not even on Disney Plus right now.
Wow.
They put Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on Disney Plus, but Inhumans isn't. So.
And they put the entire Defenders universe on there. They've got the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on there. They are acting like Inhumans didn't happen anymore, so I don't think that's going to happen.
So do you think they ever revisit those characters in a different way?
Yeah, I think that they will have other actors playing them. I do think they revisit them, but I don't think that it'll be following the storyline of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D's Inhumans, I guess, just because it didn't work. But I think that they're going to be trying to do the same thing with, say, Danny Rand from
Iron Fist.
Yeah, good point.
Because he wasn't received very well. So they can do variants. They can do what they want to do, just have different actors playing them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Now, interestingly, in the comics, Carol Danvers was originally Ms. Marvel, which is where Kamala, I don't remember which way she pronounced it.
I know, and it's frustrating. It's not like we're trying to be.
No.
It's like when they say the name twice on there, now you just question it constantly whether or not you're going to get it right.
She corrected it at one point, but I don't remember which one's correct. We'll just call her Khan maybe, because at least we can do that one. But this is where she got
Ms. Marvel.
Ms. Marvel, yeah, good point. But in the comics, this is where she got the inspiration for her costume. It was based off of Carol Danvers' Ms. Marvel costume, but she doesn't quite have that reference point in this show, because Carol Danvers went straight to Miss Marvel, or to Captain Marvel, if I remember correctly.
In this story,
in this story
the MCU, yeah.
So where do you think she gets the inspiration for her costume at this point?
I mean, the same thing happened in the Marvel Avengers game.
Okay, so explain.
I mean, Carol Danvers kind of just went straight to the Captain Marvel design. And she just kind of eventually came up with the logo herself.
Okay.
Just kind of a what she wanted to look like, kind of based off of Captain Marvel, but just her own vibe.
We see a lot in this trailer, from what I remember, of her doing like doodles and sketches and stuff. Like she's a creative, she's an artist in some ways. So it doesn't surprise me that she would come up with her own variant, because that's kind of not variant. I don't want to go like the
variant of the logo,
a variation on the logo, which would be her own at this point. So that's kind of where I think that's going with it.
Now, let's talk about her powers in the comics themselves. In the comics and in the game, I believe, she's able to modify the shape and size of any part of her body to suit whatever they need. And you can kind of think of it as like a mix between Ant-Man and Mr. Fantastic in a way. And she also has the ability to heal from wounds by shape-shifting back to her original form before she was all empowered or whatever.
Okay, and there's some other characters in Marvel that have been able to do that. There's
shapeshift.
Yeah, in the comics, like Iceman and stuff like that. If he was injured as Iceman, if he shapeshifted back into his human form, he would heal himself. Or if he was injured as a human, he would shapeshift to Iceman and then back again, and he would be healed.
Yeah, it seems like this in the comics, it takes considerable effort and energy on her part. Okay. Yeah, it really wears her out, but she's okay at that point. And then also through her shape-shifting abilities, she's able to take the appearance of anyone she wants to. She's impersonated, Captain Marvel herself. At one point, she impersonated Lieutenant Rhodes, Colonel Rhodes. To
in the comics, so she takes on a form of other people.
Yeah, so she's able to shape
like Skrulls almost.
Yeah, like Skrulls. Because we know that Captain Marvel is heavily influenced with the Skrulls. Do you think they do anything with that and her? And
I think Skrulls are going to be big in this, don't you, BB Nate?
I do too. I really do. After WandaVision, I think we're going to be getting a lot more Skrulls, especially with this show and how connected with Captain Marvel it is.
Yeah, because you've got Photon with Monica Rambeau.
Oh yeah.
Which was she takes on Marvel-esque cosmic powers is what they call it, right? And she ends up working with the Skrulls with this. So Skrulls are a big part of that. I mean, the end credit scene was her going up to be with the Skrulls, right?
That's true, yeah.
Okay. So I think that they're just setting up a lot of secret identity stuff with this, and you're going to see some. What is it? What are the other side of that battle? You have the Skrulls, and then the Kree.
Is it the Kree? That's from Guardians and stuff?
Yeah, I think that's it though.
I think that sounds right.
Okay,
yeah.
so you've got those two in there. I think you're going to see them more involved in this as well.
Okay, very cool. Now let's talk about the trailer a little bit and some interesting points. I think right off the bat, the most noticeable thing is her powers are dramatically different in the trailer. They're more like energy projections and this kind of crystal form where she has the big fist like she does in the comics, but she's able to walk on it. She creates force fields and stuff like that too. But it seems to come from magical bracelets in this version of the character as opposed to a Terrigen mist. But this begs a couple questions, was her family magical? How long has this been in the family? And could this somehow be related to Shang-Chi?
I don't know. It's hard to kind of guess with this because it is so different from the comics. So really, it's hard to figure that out. I don't know if it's related to Shang-Chi. I don't think so. And about her family, that would be a completely different take because from what I've been exposed to, that's never been a thing. So I don't know.
I wonder why these bracelets were in her family's possession, in a.
Well, I think you're making an assumption there. You assume that that's her
a good point.
Her family's home with that. I watched the trailer a couple of times today in preparation for our conversation, and I don't get the feeling that it has to be in her home. She could be in someone else's home. She could have discovered it. You never know. There could be some classic Marvel misdirection there. So the bracelets may have a huge role. I think they do have a huge role in this, but I don't necessarily think that has to have any connection to her family. And while I mean it would seem on the surface to have some Shang-Chi connections, I don't think that they're going to tie that in either with that, because I've not heard of any, in researching for the show today, I didn't find anything to do that connected Miss Marvel in any time in the comics at all with Shang-Chi or anything to do with that. So I would be surprised by that in a big way.
Okay. And then through watching the trailer, it gave us absolutely nothing in regards of an antagonist. Much like Moon Knight, you kind of didn't give us much, and we still don't have a whole lot. There was nothing in this. So
there's even less than this than there was in Moon Knight. At least you knew who the bad guy was when you watched that trip.
So if y'all had to take a wild guess as to who the bad guys would be in this series, who do you think it would be?
I have no clue.
I think it's going to be Kree.
Okay.
I think that we're going to see that this is setting up stuff that's going to happen in the Marvels movie next year. And so you've got to get her connecting with the Skrulls and the Kree, or what I think that's what they're called, right?
Well, they're called Kree. I just can't remember if that's the other side.
No, I'm pretty sure it is. Okay. So you've got the Skrulls, you got the Kree, you've got all of that going on. That connects to Captain Marvel, that connects to Monica Rambeau. Now that has to connect to Miss Marvel. They go into that movie, and then that sets up secret identity for after that movie movie comes out next year. That's the way I see it all playing out. So
Yeah, very cool.
I think it's as good a time as any for a dad moment.
Yeah.
I am your father.
I know we said it, I've mentioned it multiple times already in the segment, but watching this trailer for Ms. Marvel was a very different experience from any other that I've had in the entire MCU era. It didn't feel like a show that I had any connection to. It was set in high school. It was in New Jersey. It was about a Pakistani girl obsessed with an MCU character that I didn't have a problem with, but I haven't really connected with Captain Marvel either throughout this. And then the presentation on the trailer was also very different with it. There was a lot of different comic book type things that were popping up in it. It just felt very different. There was a part of me, I think my words that I said to you, BB Nate, when we got done watching it was, it feels like this show might be better suited for the Disney Channel, not Disney X or Disney Plus, because it just felt like a Disney Channel show with it. And I say all that because I know that there are lots of the toxic side of the MCU fandom that have taken to the socials and they criticize this show. And I want to make sure that that's not what people are perceiving with this. There's already cries, though, of this show's about kind of a woke agenda because Kamala Khan is Muslim. I think that all of those concerns are really honestly just being agitated in order to generate clicks on YouTube channels and on blogs and on websites. Just because she's Muslim doesn't mean that there's any kind of an agenda here, even though people will say that and are saying that. And just because she's a teenage girl doesn't mean that there's an agenda, like a feminist agenda going on here either. Yes, this show feels very different, but in the end, we should actually take time to outwatch the show before jumping into any conclusions about agendas being forced on anyone. My advice, for anybody listening and for you guys, not that you listen to crazy clickbait YouTubers, but just make sure that everybody just turn off the clickbait for a while. And especially those that you can tell are pushing their own agendas politically or socially or whatever, and just watch the show and think for yourself before you make any decisions.
What a concept.
So,
yeah. Well, Ms. Marvel is set to debut on Disney Plus June 8th this year. And from what we've seen, it seems to be a slightly different take on the character, but still holds true to the roots in the comics. Ms. Marvel is also the newest comic character to make a live action debut. So it's exciting to see what they'll do with this character.
It is. Absolutely. Speaking of clickbait, why don't we talk about some clickbait? It is that time. The giant freaking robot is going to break the internet, or at least our clickbaitometer on this. Luke Skywalker is being replaced. I don't know if you guys saw that article.
It's like the fourth time we've heard this.
And some Star Wars series release dates are shifting. Surprise, surprise.
This is not going to go the way you think.
All right, we're a couple of weeks into using our journals. I've been through 2 chapter summaries so far. Have either of you gotten to one of the chapter summaries yet?
I'm close.
Yes, I've gotten to one.
Oh, okay, so tell me a little bit about what that was like for you, Sam.
It was pretty cool. It was like kind of like an accomplishment, a little rewarding. I'm like, hey, I've made the first week, and I like what they do with like the level up system or whatever. It makes you like look back and realize, hey, I have actually accomplished something a little bit. I mean, even if it's just little steps, it's something to boost that confidence as you go through, and it refocuses you on why you're doing what you're doing. I mean, you write down your quest every day, but you don't write down why you're doing it all the time.
That's good. BB Nate, when we talked about this last week, you hadn't quite landed on a specific quest yet. Any change on that yet?
Not really, no.
Okay. So how's the journal been working out for you so far then?
Good. I mean, it's just kind of something to do and just write down and kind of plan out my day, I guess, is really what it is. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Sam? Has it been making any difference for you?
I think so. It makes sure I keep track of what I need to do through the day, specifically for my quest. And my quest is to become more disciplined, and even just making sure I do the journal each morning is helped with that quest as well, because I have to wake up a little bit earlier and make sure I allot time to do it, and I have to keep track of what I want to do throughout my day. So it's definitely made a difference so far. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I'll start with you, BB Nate. What's been the most helpful part of the Hero's Journal for you so far as you've been kind of starting this process?
I don't know, just kind of writing everything down kind of helps. Just seeing it on paper and figuring out my day. It feels, I guess more controllable, I guess is a good way. I don't know.
Oh, okay, cool. So what about you, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, getting those tasks down on paper really helps me visualize what I need to do through the day, because sometimes, with my quest specifically, it's pretty vague. So having concrete goals that I can accomplish through the day helps, and it just helps me stay motivated throughout the day with whatever little tasks I have, regardless of whether they are towards my goal or my quest or not.
Awesome. Well, if you're, all you listening to this right now, we want to invite you to join us on our adventures. And you can actually go to theheroesjournal.co/pages/Tatooine Sons. That's it. And join us on our quest. And when you go there, you can download your free copy of the first act. You can join our little fellowship. Be sure to check out Friday's podcast episode with Nick and Kyle. Again, I mentioned it earlier in the show, but these are the creators of the Heroes Journal. And they're going to help you get an in-depth look at their quest to help others change their personal stories. And we can't wait to have you join our fellowship and be a part of that.
Yeah.
Well, you want the bad news or the really bad news?
All right. Headline 1, Star Wars project in danger of being canceled.
Wow. Never heard this before.
Yeah. When I first read this headline, it seemed to have the perfect clickbait possibilities. There is no way, though, that I could have been prepared for the first words of the actual article. And I quote, "Nope, don't worry. As far as we know, the hero of the Mandalorian will keep doing little side quests in service of the main quest for as many years as he wants to keep doing it." Maybe he's got a hero's journal. He's on a quest. With that, this opening paragraph goes on to reassure readers that none of the other Disney Plus shows are in danger either. Finally, after multiple paragraphs, the author explains that reservations for the Galactic Star Cruiser at Galaxy's Edge are not at capacity. And this shouldn't be a surprise for a lot of reasons, including the idea that they opened during an off-travel period to give the resort time to work through problems that will inevitably occur. This is the same complaint that was made and spread all over the internet after both Galaxy's Edge West and Galaxy's Edge East were opened. It's the same thing. It was really not even about a Star Wars project. It was designed to make everybody click. It's a 10. I'd give it an 11.
No, give it an 11.
All right, it's an 11.
It literally it underplays its own clickbait in the first line.
It does. It was garbage. It was probably the most clickbaity article we've had so far.
That's
on the show.
really bad.
So, all right, Sam.
Here we go. Star Wars confirms recasting of Luke Skywalker himself. Yeah. This is the headline that appears when someone shares this epicstream.com article regarding a change in the actor playing Luke Skywalker in the Obi Wan Kenobi series. Take a second to think about that last sentence. Did you figure it out? It's not talking about replacing Mark Hamill, which is what you, of course, thought when you heard the headline.
Right.
It's talking about a casting change regarding who played the young version of Luke in the Kenobi series. Nothing of significance.
And a casting change that happened before they even filmed.
Yeah. So literally.
So it really isn't a casting change, really is.
No.
Okay.
This gets to level 9.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, baby Nate.
After removing one series, Star Wars release schedule changes again.
Man.
There's almost too much that's off in this article to cover. It links to a previous article claiming that season 2 of The Bad Batch has been delayed until 2023, and then has absolutely no evidence confirming this. Then it references a rumor that Andor might come in June, claiming that's earlier than it previously was confirmed. But the series release date has never been confirmed in any source, and the whole article is balderdash.
I just wanted to make you say balderdash.
What does that even mean?
Clickbait level 10.
Balderdash, poppycock, humbug. These are old English words for like lies, like flat out lies.
Balderdash.
I like balderdash.
We need to start using that.
Normalize using balderdash. Normalize. With that clickbait level, what'd you say, Sam? Nate?
10.
10.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
All right. Is it my turn?
I believe
I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
All right. I honestly don't know if it was a leak or an official release. All I know is that suddenly the plot synopsis for Obi Wan Kenobi was all over the internet. It's short, but it's going to give us a lot to talk about.
Hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
If you live long enough, you see the same eyes in different people.
When does the Lego Star Wars Complete Saga come out?
April
or Skywalker
5th.
Saga? April 5th? That is not far at all.
No.
Have we pre-ordered it yet?
No.
That's the day after you're interviewing the executive producer of the Batman.
No
movie.
pressure.
Did I just spoil that?
I think you did.
I did. We'll talk about that a little bit later. That's pretty cool. So anyway, oops. All right, let's talk a little bit about. That's the first thing I thought of was like April 5th is the day after April 4th. April 4th is
the day.
Is the day.
If you want to hear what it is, you got to go back and listen to it.
Yeah, there's a little
anymore.
spoiler we threw in there. Spoiler alert. I should turbis over that just so people don't hear it. Yeah.
That's our censor button.
All right. Here's the plot summary. Like I said in the teaser, it's only a couple of sentences long, but I honestly, the more I read it, I was desperately looking for some Star Wars content to talk about. And I was like, kept coming back to this. And then I stopped and read these 2 sentences and I'm like, there's a lot to talk about in this. Here he goes. During the reign of the Galactic Empire, former Jedi Master Obi Wan Kenobi embarks on a crucial mission. Kenobi must confront allies turned enemies and face the wrath of the Empire. All right, before we dig into any of those details that I'm so excited to talk about, I'm going to go with you first, BB Nate. What's your reaction to the synopsis?
Very exciting. I'm loving the story that they're going to be going with. It feels a lot. It feels Star Wars-y. It feels so good. It feels good with Kenobi. I'm excited to see what's going on with this. I don't know what his crucial mission is. I mean, we know the whole allies turning into enemies. We know who that is. That's Vader. But I'm really interested in seeing how this goes. And it could be Inquisitor too. Grand Inquisitor. I hope.
Well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. And I'm going to question one of your statements in a little bit. So we'll come back to that. Samuel, your reaction.
Oh, I mean, on the surface, it feels like, oh, wow, that not a whole lot. You know, it's just another synopsis that gives us nothing. But you're right. When you look at it and you think about it a little bit more, there's a lot more complexity to it. And it promises a very interesting story just from that little bit it gave us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you start off with it, the first thing that we see in there is this opening phrase that he's going to, or this opening idea that he's going to be going on a crucial mission. Mm-hmm. So, it seems that Obi Wan Kenobi isn't leaving Tatooine to take some heat off of the young Luke Skywalker, like we talked about. We thought maybe the Inquisitors found him and he had to flee, and that's why he's leaving Tatooine. But that doesn't sound like what's going on with this. The summary suggests he's actually going to be sent on a crucial mission. So I'll start with you, Samuel the Hutt, and then come back to you, BB Nate. What do you think could be so important that he's going to abandon watching over Luke, and who is sending him on this mission?
Well, I think as to who, it almost certainly has to be Bail Organa. I feel like that's just, it would fit the best. It leads into episode 4. But this isn't far off the heels of episode 3, so we know that there's still about
halfway between.
Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely could still be a relationship there. So I think that makes the most sense. As to what could be so important, I mean, there's so many different things that it could be. I honestly can't form an idea just because it's such a vague statement. What could be so important that you need someone as adept as Obi-Wan Kenobi to do it, and that's so important that he's willing to accept it and leave his post that he was put on by was Yoda himself, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's got to be a huge deal, but I don't know, maybe it's like an idea where they think they can put a blow to the Empire, some one-off mission. We've got to do this, so they hire the best of the best. Obviously, it doesn't work, and maybe that's why Vader's there. It's such an important location. I don't know.
That's a really good point. Sam, BB Nate, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm really curious on what this crucial mission could be. Like Sam said, we have no idea what it could be. It's very up in the air about whatever it is. I do think that it's important to remember the fact that Vader, when something's important, you know it. Because honestly, when we're playing Fallen Order, you're thinking, Cal Kestis isn't going to be that huge of a deal for the Empire. And then at the end of the game, Vader shows up because it's that important. And I think we do see the same fortress from the end of Fallen Order in this trailer. So it's very interesting that they're connecting those ties. And I mean, didn't Bail Organa mention Obi-Wan in Rogue One?
Yeah, he sends Leia on the mission and says, my old friend,
So that's for sure. Of course, Bail is still in contact with Obi-Wan. He knows that he's going to be doing missions. So,
and he apparently knows where he's at because he sends Leia to Tatooine.
So I really do think that we're going to be seeing Bail in this series at least.
That'd be cool.
I know we're confirmed to be getting Bail in the Andor series. It makes sense that if they're going to bring him into Andor, they could be, as they're filming simultaneously, they could also film Bail scenes for the Obi Wan Kenobi series, and you wouldn't know it. And so I think they were definitely getting some more Bail Organa, which is cool because he was a really good character that didn't get a lot of screen time in the prequels, but he was a great character for it. And it helps create more of that world building so that when you watch Rogue One and then you move into the destruction of Alderaan and everything, that makes it a much more heavy storyline with that. As far as the crucial mission goes, what you said, Sam, about it has to be something of like ultimate galactic significance in order for him to do this. It has to be major. And there's a part of me that doesn't think that this is it, but sort of wants it to be, that there's still something in him, in Kenobi, that thinks that Anakin still is there, because then that adds weight to all of those scenes with Luke in the original trilogy where he's like, he's gone, your father is dead, all of this. So what if, I don't know. I mean, what if the mission is by Qui-Gon? Maybe he has this Force Ghost moment with Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon is like, I need you to go and save that little boy. He's still there. Maybe Anakin is having some conflict, or Darth Vader's having some conflict, and Qui-Gon sent. I mean, for me, that's the weight, the heaviness of the mission is Qui-Gon Jinn from the Force. Kenobi's Jedi master sends him to go try to rescue and bring Anakin back to the light side. That would cause him to leave.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That kind of thing. I would hope that that's the kind of thing. So, all right. So the next phrase in this is confronts allies turned enemies. It sounds very ominous. And BB Nate, you automatically jumped into the Vader thing, and I think that makes some sense with it. But there could be a number of people working with the Republic that would fit into this category. I mean, we know that he's going to confront Anakin. He's going to confront Vader at some point. But are we going to see some of the others? And if so, who?
I mean, heck, we could even see him confronting the Grand Inquisitor, and he was an ally. He was a Jedi Temple Guard, one of the highest ranking Jedi Temple Guards. So Obi-Wan most
and we know this why?
Because of Rebels.
Yes,
heck yeah.
Great episode with Ahsoka too. Is where we learned that. But I really do think that could be one of them. Other ones, I'm not 100% sure of who it could be. It's hard because there's a lot of, I mean, you could go with some of the clones, maybe.
That's a good point.
Seeing that, maybe, bringing some Cody.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing some Cody.
I think that needs to happen.
And have that happen. Because we don't know where Cody is in the original trilogy. And seeing Obi-Wan maybe kill Cody, that would be really...
Oh, that'd be dark. Really dark. You just like... This is what happens when BB Nate records when he's got a little bit of a cold and he's not feeling good. He just went down the dark side right there.
But no, really, I do think that could be a good storyline for Obi-Wan, and that would really change a lot of how people could see this show, because everybody's expecting a good old Obi-Wan story, but I really think we should expect a human grounded story about loss, because I mean he lost Qui-Gon, and then the last thing he promised to Qui-Gon was to raise Anakin, and then he hasn't been able to do that. And so if Qui-Gon does send him on that mission, I'm sure Qui-Gon would be like, hold your promise to me, and he would have to feel like he would have to do that. So
wow, what do you think, Sam?
Dang. Yeah, I mean, I really like the Cody idea just because he's the one who ordered the hit on Kenobi. But as to who else it could be, I don't know. It's tough. Shoot, was it Admiral Yularen from Clone Wars?
Yeah, he becomes an Imperial Admiral.
I mean, maybe we could see something.
We see him in Rebels.
Yeah, maybe we could see something like that. Even Tarkin to an extent. I mean, he was working for the Republic. He worked with Obi-Wan. Now he's one of the baddest of the bad when it comes to the Empire.
I don't think Kenobi would be too sad about fighting him, though.
No, I don't think he necessarily fights him directly, but, we could see his character show up in this series. And I think bringing that in would be interesting. And just, again, showing the transition between well, I mean, obviously this is years after the transition from the Republic to the Empire, but seeing how that affected some of the generals that were in the Republic. I think.
Well, you know, Deborah Chow in some interviews recently, and some of the other people involved with the show have talked about this is in this series, you see the Empire at its worst. It is the most at its height of power.
Oh, okay.
It's you know, everything. It's as bad as it can be in this show. The Empire is the worst. And so, you know, some of that would be really interesting. And then you read, you know, in the next part of that sentence, it says, the synopsis, it says, the wrath, he's going to confront the wrath, of the Empire, with that. I mean, I'm thinking the Inquisitorius. With that. Is it possible that we get more than just Vader and his minions, though? Is the Emperor going to unleash everything that he's got on his old friend?
Ooh.
I think the Emperor really finds Obi-Wan to be a threat to Anakin. Because Anakin had an attachment with Obi-Wan, and that's the last person alive that Anakin had an attachment to. I mean, when you think about it,
that's a good point.
Padme's dead, and Obi-Wan was his brother, and I mean, like, so if Obi-Wan's still alive, there's still a chance that Anakin could get through, and I mean, he does because of Obi-Wan, and then we see Luke, and so I really do think that the Emperor sees Obi-Wan's influence on Anakin.
And we have Ian McDiarmid teasing that he may be in this show.
So cool.
With that. What do you think, Sam? Do you think that we get the Emperor unleashing the full Empire on Obi Wan Kenobi?
I mean, I hope so. I hope we get to see Obi-Wan go ham on some stormtroopers and stuff. I mean, we see him do it to an extent in episode 3, and we know he's pretty awesome because of that fight with Anakin at the end. I want to see that again because, let's be honest, episode 4, after you hop off of episode 3 to that fight, it's pretty anticlimactic. We know why that's the case because it's an old movie. But I hope we get to see Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi fighting the Empire. Not fully like slicing up stormtroopers, but he's going ham on some stuff. I think that would be pretty cool. And yeah, some fights with the Inquisitors would be really, really cool.
I cannot even begin to tell you how, you know, I was excited about this show. I've been excited. Like, this is the one for me. I mean, it's Ahsoka for sure. Nate. Sam, you were Boba Fett, going into that. This is the show that I have been like, just like a giddy little schoolgirl.
Isn't Obi-Wan your number 2?
Yeah, he is. Yeah. And so I'm like, you know, like just super excited. And then coming into this, even recording this segment, I was like, this is going to be a fun conversation. After this conversation, I'm like, I cannot wait
so far
for this series right now.
Now you know how I felt with the Batman.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seriously, we've gotten a teaser trailer now. We've gotten a synopsis. I give it about 2 more weeks before we start getting inundated with a bunch more Kenobi marketing. And there are going to be more trailers and then some spots and some featurettes. And I promise you, I'm going to watch those on loop constantly. But I fear, and I know that's the path to the dark side, but I fear that the next 2 months of waiting are going to age, at least me, maybe others, like, we lived for 20 years on Tatooine. So that's where I'm at with this. What are we talking about? What's next? We got some like movie stuff happening with this. Okay, only one movie rules the box office in spite of new competition with that. And nobody saw the second highest grossing film of the weekend being on this list. But it's there. We'll talk about that next on Movie Moments. Hello there, Tatooine Sons family. David here. I am sure you noticed these ads that played before the episode today. I want to warn you, there are going to be a couple more coming in just a minute and some more after the episode. So I want to explain why. We absolutely love Tatooine Sons. It's a joy to do it every week, but there are a couple of costs that are involved that you should know about. First, it costs to put the show online and distribute it through the podcast app that you're listening to it on right now. There's also production costs involving show art and our website and even expenses like going to the movies, which we'd probably do anyway, but definitely not as often as we do now. Those things add up pretty fast. On top of all of those hard costs, there is the time to plan, produce, record, edit, and promote this show. And it's a lot more than just kind of turning on a mic, recording, and throwing it online. Each episode takes more than 20 hours of work on our end to produce. And I know I already said it once. I do want to say it again. We love doing this. Producing and hosting Tatooine Sons is one of the highlights of our week. But all of those hard and soft costs have led us to a decision to include ads again on the show. These ads help defray the hard costs for each episode. But that also leads to another change for Tatooine Sons. We've restarted our Patreon program, and we're really excited about some of the things that we've added to it. There's actually 4 tiers to the program. The tiers start at as little as $5 a month to give you access to the show completely ad-free, along with our weekly interview series, which will be moving to Patreon and becoming an exclusive benefit, and then access to our Patreon community of positive, friendly, and passionate fans who love talking about Star Wars and Marvel and DC and Lord of the Rings and so much more. And from there, the benefits just continue to go up. So if you love Tatooine Sons and you want to help us continue to produce positive, family-friendly conversations about the stories that you love, then you now have a couple of different ways that you can help us. You can continue to listen to the show as you always have, with a few ads inserted here and there to help cover our costs, or you can join our Patreon family for ad-free listening and so much more, whichever you choose. I personally want to thank you for being a part of our Tatooine Sons family. And of course, as always, may the Force be with you.
At last, we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last, we will have revenge.
New releases this weekend. We didn't actually go see a movie last weekend.
We didn't. We were busy. We were at baseball games.
We were.
That was good. Fun. Good job,
yes.
Jay.
Yes, good job.
Yeah, anyway.
For this, we had The Lost City. It is about a brilliant but reclusive author, Loretta Sage, has spent her career writing about exotic places in her popular romance adventure novels featuring handsome cover model Alan, who has dedicated his life to embodying the hero character Dash. While on tour promoting...
Dash Rendar?
Yeah, no, I was thinking, Dash from like Incredibles, but all right.
No, I'm thinking Dash Rendar, Star Wars.
While on tour promoting her new book with Alan, Loretta is kidnapped by an eccentric billionaire who, by the way, it's playing out a lot like Now You See Me Too, even with the same guy playing an eccentric billionaire, kidnapping popular people on tour.
I've thought the same thing in the trailer.
Yeah, it's weird.
I didn't make that connection.
I did first time I watched it, but who hopes that she can lead him to the ancient lost city's treasure from her latest story. Wanting to prove that he can be a hero in real life and not just on the pages of her books, Alan sets off to rescue her. Thrust into an epic jungle adventure, the unlike pair will need to work together to survive the elements and find the ancient treasure before it's lost forever. The director is Adam Nee. The cast is Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum, Daniel Radcliffe, and Brad Pitt. The studio is Paramount and is rated PG-13 for violence and some bloody images, suggestive material, partial nudity, and language.
Partial nudity is going to be Tatum Channing's buttocks. I'm almost certain about
100%.
That. Yeah.
Going yes or no?
I want to know whether or not either of you would go see this movie. All right. You don't have a girlfriend, BB Nate. Okay. So it's sort of a date type thing.
I mean, they're even like having date night screenings.
Okay. So do you think that you would see this movie?
Would I? I'd probably just do like what Sammy and Savannah did when they went to go see Ghostbusters Afterlife. I'll just let them go see it and I'll just watch the Batman.
All right, Samuel, you have a girlfriend.
I do.
Would you take your girlfriend to see this movie?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it actually looks like it's a fun movie. I'm not going there to expecting anything crazy. Yeah. You got some funny actors. It seems like an entertaining enough story. It'll entertain me for
honestly
an hour.
With
or so.
A-list, I would go into it and be like, I'm just wanting to waste a couple hours. I might
get some
enjoy my
laughs.
time.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I think it looks fun.
I had no desire to see this movie, and then Mom went to a movie with us and saw the trailer, and she's like, "That looks funny." And I'm like, all right, I'll probably end up seeing this movie.
Yeah.
So that's the way that works. Okay, cool.
Yes, for new trailers this week, a surprise one that Sammy and I are actually really excited about. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, coming out September 23rd. Now, this is the sequel that will follow Puss in Boots as he discovers that his passion for adventure has taken its toll. Reads the synopsis. He has burned through 8 of his 9 lives, leaving him with only 1 life left. Puss sets out on an epic journey to find the mythical last wish and restore his 9 lives. Now, Sammy, you watched this trailer with me.
I did, yeah.
And the animation style is different from the first one.
It is, very much
from
so.
any Shrek movie.
Yep.
but it looks like a lot of fun, and I'm definitely going to see this one.
Absolutely. I mean, we loved the first Puss in Boots.
This is one we could get Mom to go see with us too. Then,
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a fun little sequel. Weird that it's coming out so many years later.
Yeah.
I mean, when did Puss in Boots come out? Was
it's
it
like somebody during the pandemic was like, we need to spend some of the DreamWorks Studios money. And
Right.
It's like 2013 or something.
Yeah,
I
it
don't know. It
was
was so
years
long ago.
ago.
Yeah, almost 10 years later.
It looks fun. It looks like your Puss in Boots movie. You've got who's the actor who he was in?
Antonio Banderas.
Yeah, you got him playing Puss in Boots. He's always fantastic. So yeah, I'm excited for it.
Very cool.
Yeah, I don't know. It looks fun. For box office results this weekend, The Batman, surprisingly, just kidding, it is at the top with 36 million domestic, almost at 600 million worldwide.
It cleared it as of today. They announced that it cleared
That's
it.
incredible.
For second place, the anime fans were out in force this weekend with Jujutsu Kaisen 0, the movie, with a 17 million domestic intake and 129 million.
That's
worldwide.
the number right there.
Yeah.
When you look at the worldwide number of 129 million, that's just stunning.
Yeah. For a movie that I haven't seen a trailer for.
No, I didn't even know it was coming out until I was just scrolling around on
Just
AMC.
amazing.
And for third place, congratulations, Uncharted. You're still floating with 8 million domestic.
That's a strong showing this far out.
Yeah, 337 million worldwide.
That's
so if
awesome.
they don't announce a sequel pretty soon, I'd be surprised because
Let's
that's
do it.
really well. That's really
Make
hot.
it so.
Yes.
See, that might be the first Star Trek reference we've had on
When
this
is that?
show.
What is that from?
Oh,
I
that's
was going to make a con reference earlier.
Captain
but
Picard said it all the time. Make it so, number one.
I never watched New Generation.
Next
You didn't
Next
watch any of them. You watched like the J.J. Abrams verse.
Those are good movies, though.
Great movies.
That's it. They are good movies. I even
Actually,
like.
I haven't seen the third one still. I still haven't seen it.
I like Into the
third
Darkness.
one is fine. Now that I rewatched it, it just feels like a Star Trek mission.
Okay, we're having a squirrel
So it looks
moment.
good. Yeah.
Sorry about that. All right, let's continue.
It's again me. So we're going to
All
talk
right, yeah.
about
What are you talking about?
Yeah, we're going to talk about some things that we want to see in the Batman 2. If it ever happens, it will.
It will.
There's a lot of unknown, including if it's even happening, but we can hope.
Well, if we
Sure.
need to, we'll ask the executive producer in a couple weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
totally.
yeah.
Totally.
Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Yeah, I can fly.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
The people in this room, which one is A, wearing a spangly outfit, and B, not of use?
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
Batman has no limits.
I'm not asking anybody that question about whether or not they're making this movie because that would be the end of being able to do interviews
Right, and
unprofessional
with any of these people.
As if we were ever going to get an interview with any of them in the first place.
Hey, you know what? We may be having a Marvel writer on in April too. We'll see. So
we're not going to get either of these interviews now. But
either.
No, they are locked in on my calendar right now. They're happening. All right,
What
anyway.
interviews?
Yeah, exactly. Not that anybody at Marvel or DC listens to our show to know that we're making these little statements right
What
now.
statements? I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. All right, BB Nate,
all
go.
right, so let's just talk about. I mainly just did villains for this because villains drive the movie.
Well, we pretty much can assume that Batman will be in it.
Yes.
Whoa.
Let's, of course, talk about the one that we are all thinking, Court of Owls. Now, this is something we've all wanted ever since the first Batman trailer came out. But it didn't happen in the first movie, though. But Robert Pattinson and Paul Dano have both said they would like to see this in the sequel. And Robert was actually in an interview, and he thinks that the first movie was pointing towards the court being a thing in the sequel. He even said that. He says it's just him guessing, him speculating, but he thinks that it's possible and it should happen in the sequel, according to him. So, which I find funny that he loves that so much. And this could very well point to the power grab that Catwoman was talking about at the end of the first movie. Do y'all think this will happen in the sequel?
I feel like all signs point to it at this point. I mean, it's there. It's just not there. They haven't, said it yet. But ever since it started, they've been dropping the Court of Owls here and there. I read the Court of Owls comics, and they're talking about it in interviews, and they think it's a great idea. They like that idea. Robert Pattinson's like, I think it's totally happening. I feel like it's all but confirmed at this point. And I think it's a good choice for this storyline and for this character. I think they'd be almost foolish not to. I mean, if they don't do it, we'll be fine. It'll be great. We'll love it. Just like how they didn't do it in this movie. It was still fantastic. But I feel like there's a high likelihood, and it would be a really smart move on their point.
I don't know if you recall, before we recorded or before the Batman released in the theaters, we were giving our predictions, and we were talking about the Court of Owls potentially being a part of it. And I said that I think that if you're not a Court of Owls person, if you're not a Court of Owls person, you don't understand Court of Owls, you're not familiar with it, you're not going to find it in this movie. If you are a Court of Owls fan, you're going to see Court of Owls all over this movie as a possibility. And I think that that's exactly what happened with this. And I think that's why this goes forward. It's a brilliant way to do this in this Batman universe, because we've already had Penguin in other universes. We've already had Catwoman. We've already had Riddler. We already had Joker. And yes, we want those major rogues gallery characters in this, but you have to have a villain that doesn't, that surprises the film going audience. And Court of Owls, tying into Thomas and Martha Wayne. Now you've got
and the
Arkhams in there. All of that connects in there. I think it has to happen. I don't know we get it as the main villain in Batman 2. I think we get more teases, more overt teases to it, more clear, even potentially a mention of the court at some point in the second movie, because this will end up being a trilogy, and I think the court is the main villain of the third trilogy with that.
I think Joker is going to be the main villain in the last movie. I think that they're going to be doing the opposite of what you're thinking. I think the court's going to be the main villain in the next movie, if it happens, and more teases for Joker, and then have him be the final one. And maybe I'm not sure.
I'd be okay with that too.
A big speculation right now, but I do think that we see a 3 to 4 year time jump before the next sequel.
Well, then that puts us in a potential for a Robin, doesn't it?
Exactly. And I think that's why that they're going to be bringing that in with Joker, having more stories with that. And I do think we see a death in the family in the third movie.
Wow.
This series can get any darker.
Because that's what Robert Pattinson said. He said he would love to do Death in the Family.
I feel like it would be good to put on screen.
It would be great. For this next one, now this is one I personally really want to see, and so does Matt Reeves, apparently. Matt Reeves has gone on record talking about how he wants to do a grounded version of Mr. Freeze in this universe. Now, if this is the case, the story would be very sad and dark, since Mr. Freeze is one of the, if not the most tragic villains in comic book history. Now, would you all like to see this in Matt Reeves' universe? And if so, who would you like to play him?
Okay, my initial reaction to having Mr. Freeze in this is tainted by
Arnold
Schwarzenegger and Batman series, the original TV series.
You haven't seen Heart of Ice. I'm going to have to show you Heart of Ice.
Well, that's my point. So what's the tragic story that you're like in a minute and a half? What's the tragic story that you reference?
Mr. Freeze, Victor Freeze is a cryogenic doctor, and his wife has a terminal illness, and he's absolutely in love with her. They're both in love, insane. But eventually it gets to the point where he's working normally at Wayne Enterprises, and his research is being funded by Wayne Enterprises for cryogenic cures for diseases and everything. So he's working mainly for a cure for his wife. It gets to the point where Wayne Enterprises finds his work to not be useful anymore. So they cut all funding. He goes absolutely insane and has a last ditch effort to save his wife. And he puts her in a cryogenic tube and he freezes her. And it gets to the point where he loses all funding, to the point where he can't wake up his wife out of that.
Okay. Now this story seems familiar. Like it was a subplot in a Court of Owls comic I read.
It was the lead-in for the next arc after the Court of Owls, in the end of the City of Owls paperback.
Okay.
That was kind of the lead-in for that.
So I've read it in that. Okay. That's why it's familiar to me.
And it gets to the point where he loses, it fails experiments. That's when he turns blue and has to have the suit to keep him at a constant sub-zero temperature. And he just gets to the point where he keeps going absolutely insane, trying to save his wife so many times, to the point where...
So he's not a villain trying to take over the world or trying to kill just to kill.
He's trying to save his wife.
Okay. So what makes him a bad guy then?
The fact that he turns to crime to do that. Okay. Normally. And it's really, if you would watch Batman, Mr. Freeze, Sub-Zero, which is the other Batman animated series, animated film, and then Heart of Ice, which are both from the animated series, you'll really understand how sad it is.
I mean, I just don't know how you bring this character into this universe and it fit. He's a very superhero-y kind of character, and this series doesn't have any of that feel. I'm not saying they couldn't figure it out. They pulled it off with the Riddler, and I was kind of, that's hard to do after you've seen Jim Carrey. I mean, we're basing this off of Arnold Schwarzenegger here, but I just don't know how you make it work and it feel grounded. I think the backstory is very deep and it's touching, but also I'd feel bad for Batman beating up on this guy at this point, knowing that story. I'm like, dude, just help him out, give him some money, throw some money at him. But I just don't think they go with this character in this universe.
Okay,
for it.
Yeah. Well, and last but certainly not least, Hush. Now, Hush has been hinted at by a few things,
like a big word of Hush on the screen
right over
the movie
from the Riddler. But I personally wouldn't mind this. One problem with this, though. We know from the prequel novel and a bunch of the other stuff, Bruce didn't really have any friends growing up that we know about, so it would be difficult to tie that to Thomas Elliot. Okay.
Two thoughts I have with this. One, I think this is the main villain, should be the main villain of the second movie, while the court's kind of still in the background.
Okay.
Secondly, you said there's going to be a time jump. I think throughout this time, he is becoming more involved in the political side of Gotham and makes a friend, much like what's his name in the Court of Owls comic? The politician.
Oh, Lincoln March.
Lincoln March. He forms a political friend throughout these years. 5 or 6 years. That's a fairly good,
almost a Harvey Dent like relationship.
Yes, exactly. Forms this huge relationship with someone. Turns out he's Thomas Elliot, and that's the bad guy. And I feel like that feels grounded for this story. It would still have an impact. You can still have him be crazy. And then you can still have the court in the background, and it's still all tied together in a way.
And I mean, you can bring it to the fact that Thomas Elliot manipulates Bruce into becoming a friend, just judging by how he saw the video and blames Bruce for his father's death.
That's a good point.
He doesn't know that it was Maroni or Falcone.
Yeah, and I don't think we have really any clear indication of who killed his parents yet.
We know that it wasn't. Yeah, we don't know who killed Bruce's parents, but we do know that Edward Elliot was killed by Falcone.
Right.
So Thomas could blame Bruce for that, though, because he doesn't know that.
Oh, that's
and so we could see him try to have that happen. I think that Hush would work really well. Do y'all have any potential villains you would like to see in the second movie? Besides these, of course.
Yeah, I think that we've got to go down this path with the Court of Owls. I think that's the one that makes sense. As far as another villain, I struggle with Mr. Freeze, like I've said, but they can surprise me, and I would be pretty happy with that. So,
yeah.
I'm trying to think of any villains that might be cool to bring in. I mean, if they did bring in another villain, I think it would be more like a little beginning of the movie fight, throws him in jail, just going to show he's still in the game and there's still villains, and it's kind of like that setting the world thing. But as to who that villain could be, I don't know. It feels like the rest of the villains are still pretty fantastical.
Yeah, we've still got Penguin out there too, and
that's
Penguin
true.
Could be a villain in the second movie.
That's a good point.
Even Robert Pattinson has said this, but I would like to see Clayface as well.
That'd be interesting.
I think that'd be really cool. But now we just have to wait like 5 years for the next movie. But during that time, we will be getting the Penguin show. So at least
and Gotham PD.
That. And it's more Arkham Asylum now, which is
okay. Well, excited about that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Anything else?
Yeah, Dad, you'll like this one. Loki writer had a Miss Minutes award speech pre-recorded for the Writers Guild Awards. You would have loved that.
I so am ready for a Loki season 2, and so not wanting to see Miss Minutes on screen again because she terrifies me.
Just a random character.
It does. It really does terrify me.
That's great. But the Dune Part 2 script is finished. Go ahead.
I figured out why she's terrifying to you.
Oh.
It's because you're old and you're worried that your time is limited. So she's like a personification.
No,
of
she's
your
creepy and her eyes are freaked out. All right.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, yes, the Doom Part 2 script is finished. We also got some more news on the Benny Gesserit show. Like the title is going to be called The Sisterhood.
Okay.
Of the Traveling Pants.
No.
What?
No. Just ask Savannah Sam. She'll know. But yes, the sisterhood, they can't talk about it at all, really. But the writer of the sisterhood was taken off of the project for a little bit to focus on Dune Part 2, getting that script finished. And he said working on other projects they can't talk about yet. For the
Interesting.
They calling it the Dune Cinematic Universe.
No,
So,
we are going to coin it
DCU.
right now. Hashtag Duniverse.
Duniverse. Why?
I like it.
I'm telling you, I'm making that.
Coin it.
Making that one happen. The Duniverse. All right. Is that it? Is that all we're talking about? It's my turn. Christopher Lloyd joins season 3 cast of The Mandalorian, which is hilarious.
That's awesome.
In so many different levels, not to mention that his time machine in Back to the Future was a DeLorean. And
DeLorean.
And he's the man DeLorean. So it's like crazy stuff. So
he's old too.
He is old. I remember him all the way back on Taxi, a TV show in the late 70s, early 80s.
Dang.
With Tony Danza and Judd Hirsch.
He's been in the game for a while.
Let's see how many people I can name. Ooh, this is really cool. This is a Wayback Machine moment. Tony Danza, Christopher Lloyd, Judd Hirsch, which you would recognize Judd Hirsch. You guys would. Mary Lou Henner and Danny DeVito.
Hey,
that's where Danny DeVito got his start on TV. With that. All right. And on that Wayback Machine moment, we'll close this show. Friday's episode, Nick and Kyle from the Heroes Journal. Please tune in. It's not a commercial for the Heroes Journal. It's a really fascinating story about how these guys came together and Nick's story of how these types of things changed his life, these types of productivity journals and how he's giving back. It's just amazing to do that. So check that out. And then if you do want to look at more information about the Heroes Journal, you can find the link in the show notes. We'd love for you to do that. Check out our Patreon page, and we've got tons of free content on there, guys. That free content is available. It's pretty much every day of the week. Something goes up there. We're putting dad moments up there regularly, so check that out. And thank you for listening to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast.
If you had a good time listening, it would be awesome if you could share this with your friends.
Yeah, and of course, the show is only a small part of the Tatooine Sons world, so if you liked it that much and you want to get even more, be sure to like us on Facebook and join our Facebook discussion group, and then join us on Twitter to get in on all of the action, and you can keep up to date with everything we've got going on over there at TatooineSons.com.
That is correct. Don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss our next episode, and give us a review, please, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. If they have a review system, we would very much appreciate it. So anything else you guys would like to say?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you, always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.
Join, please.
Yep, yep.